Buy my book.
Buy my shirt.
Mike sent it. Buy my book.
Buy my book. Because buy my book, and I've got leather. What is it? I've got leather boots. Would you ever meet Mike Spencer at a panel?
How about in his bedroom? I mean hotel room. Yeah.
We love you, Spike.
Yeah, we love you, Spike.
He's such a fun guy, though.
Yeah.
He's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, any questions?
Yeah, let's
start with, I guess.
If you guys have any questions about the voice acting world, or we can start talking, or whatever you prefer. You got a question?
Just
shoot up your
Sean,
hand.
please. Somebody else.
Am I doing what?
Yeah.
Am I one of the main characters?
Yeah, it's like an ensemble.
How did you get picked for it?
How did I get picked? I auditioned, and I've worked with Bang Zoom Entertainment before. They're the ones who were the company that Aniplex chose to record it. So what they do is they usually call in their actors that they've known, for several years, because I did Overman King Gainer with them, as well as Samurai Champloo, Morabito, and several other things. So they called me in, and I went and I auditioned, not knowing which role I would get, and I was fortunate enough to get Mikado. So it's what I like. If you don't know Do Rah Rah Rah, it's basically kind of centers around, well, it centers around a lot of people, but my character's the kid who comes sort of from the countryside to Ikebukuro in Japan. Did I say that right, Lisle?
Yes.
Did I say Ikebukuro right?
Yes.
Yeah, that. And he meets his friend, and then all these shenanigans start happening around them, and there's a headless rider, there's a black Russian guy who sells sushi, there's that would have been fun. There's a doctor who loves the headless chick, there's another scientist who loves her brother, there's is a head on somebody who shouldn't belong to, I don't know, you gotta watch the show. And then there's guy superhuman strength, and there's another guy who's doing what? Oh my God, there's a lot. And this is so typical of my character. You see, can you guys see that?
Yeah.
He's always, everything's always happening to him, you know what I'm saying? He's the victim. I'm a victim. But then he has his own little secrets too, which is kind of cool.
Yeah.
And I love the show because of the ensemble piece, that there's so many great characters. Oh, Spike Spencer's in it. He plays this guy too, by the way, since we mentioned him. I'll give him a little plug. Spike Spencer drives this van. Yeah. And everybody always nicks it, or if somebody,
You hit my van.
You hit my van. And there's a little couple that tortures people through, they go through anime books, and they're like, let's torture them this way.
Yeah.
Right, that chick.
Walker. Right.
Yeah, Walker and all that. Okay. That's for me. While Darrel plays Mikado, I play a lesser-known role, recurring, called Avocado. I loved it when Simon got the avocado and sliced him up and put him on the sushi.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, good stuff.
You, sir.
For Quinton,
Yeah.
could you say your favorite line for Kingdom Hearts 2?
Oh, I'm so flattered. Got it memorized.
Anybody else?
That was hot.
How about in the back?
Who are you in Star Ocean?
I was just a bunch of various characters in that one, a lot of background voices and that kind of stuff. So sometimes, that's the interesting thing, too, about voice acting, we're not always the leads. A lot of times they'll call you in. You could be a lead in something, and then the next time they call you in, and you're just what they call the Walla work. Walla Walla? You guys know what Walla Walla is?
Walla Walla.
No? Walla Walla is let's say if you have a crowd scene, and there's a bunch of people in the crowd, they just need a bunch of people to do those lines. So citizen, whatever. The background voices, that kind of stuff. Man A, oh my God, he's coming, or what's that? Stuff like that. Right? So I'll do anything. I'm so happy when I get any kind of work. One time for one video game we did for Legendary. It's a video game where all these like creatures start coming out of the subways and stuff in New York City. Anyone know that game? It's like all the like mythological monsters, werewolves and all kinds. Yeah, it was a so-so game. And but there was like 6 or 8 of us in a room, in a big room with microphones all over the room, and all we had to do all day was basically like, okay, now you're in the subway and the monsters are coming out, and we all had to run around and scream like, oh my God, what's going on? What's happening? Ah, it's coming! It's bit me! And, all day, and we're running around like crazy, and they want us to run, literally run around the room and scream. So kind of like wallow work.
Yeah, anyone else?
Who do you voice in Preston Tennis?
Oh, Prince of Tennis? I do a very irritating character named Shinya Yanagasawa. He's in a doubles match, and he always says, his main tagline thing is, sure enough, sure enough. Do you remember him at all? I can't remember what episode he's in. He's in a couple of them.
All right.
Yeah. So he was a big crowd pleaser, that Shinya. But but the fun thing was he gets like hit in the head, like with one of the tennis balls, and kind of gets knocked out, and he's looking at the. Did you see it?
Yeah.
Okay. He's in it. And
I know all your stuff.
Okay. And he's looking at this guy. He goes, sure enough, sure enough. That kind of thing. But he was fun to play.
Okay.
Nathan has a question.
One of the fascinating things for me is to learn how you guys develop a new voice or figure out a new character, especially one that's tougher. So anybody can feel it. What was the hardest character to develop, and what was your method?
Well, I like listening to people talk like you, and I try to do an impression of the rhythm and timbre of their voice. There's an art to it, kind of science, and it's not perfect right out of the gate, but impression is a sincerest form of flattery.
I love your class.
Actually, its imitation is a sincerest form of flattery.
Or flattery.
Yeah, it really is. I think my hardest role, honestly, my voice is really low today. The hardest role I had to do, honestly, was the audiobook for the narration, because I was being the narrator playing a female, and it was just freaking hard. It's like, we did, normally, as voice actors, I think you only do like 8 hours a day, tops, maybe 10 if you really want to push it, but we had to do like 15-hour days. It was really bad. And holding a voice way up there as a female is really not fun after 15 hours. So at the end of the night, you're just like, yeah, sure, I'm a female, I swear. She was telling me, you sound like a transvestite. He's up there. And then all of a sudden you're like, I'm so happy, oh my gosh. Anyway, it's just hard to like have to keep it up there. For me, it's just playing. I only play females. I never play guys. I've never been cast as. The closest one was like Banjo in that video game. That's like Ed. And even then, he had a higher voice. He was a teenager. So, once you have to pick for a guy.
A serious answer to your question was, for me, doing Elmer Fudd and a parody of Eminem's 8 Mile on Robot Chicken. Because, recreating Elmer Fudd is one thing, but then rapping on top of that is another. So I had the actor-director Seth Green, who's also the creator of the show, come in the booth with me, and Seth actually raps, which is cool. So he wrote it and got in there with me, and I'm a rocker, he's a rapper, but I got rhythm. I've got rhythm, I've got music, I've got my girl who could ask for anything more. Anyway, he got in there with me and we started rapping together and it all worked out, I can't remember exactly the lines. I'm sure someone could bring it up on YouTube and we could hear it, and it all sounds great in the end. But that was really challenging to find. All of a sudden it sounded like Christopher Walken Fudd. Challenging to find, Elmer Fudd. Fudd, whapping and clapping and snapping and laughing. It's because you don't have any reference. There's no point of reference. So there you go. There's an answer.
That was easy to find.
Probably for me, the hardest voiceover job that I had to do was in Japan. It was for a commercial where I had to be the voice of a crow, and I had to sing "Hey Jude." And the whole thing is, like, because a lot of times the client doesn't necessarily really know what they want either. They know they want to use your voice, but they're not quite sure. At least in my experience, it's kind of it is a process. Like, you're constantly having to go back and forth with them, and like just kind of like give them various pitches of your voice and just kind of play around with it. And basically at the end, I was just like, okay! I was just like trying to do anything and everything until we finally get to that point. But then the whole thing is you have to keep that voice. And so what I like to do, and especially if you have a few voices that you're doing, say like in a video game or something like that, or in my case I've done a lot of children's books, because of course my background comes from Tokyo, so there are a lot of, English education, like, doing Mother Goose fairy tales or whatever, and where you have to play fish number 5 and then bird number 12, or, and you have to remember that voice when it comes back again. So I like to have a certain stance or a certain thing that I do, maybe I like the way I stand or the way I hold my head or something, and that will be just for that character. So then I'll go back into that stance, and then I'll be able to draw out that character easier. But yeah, so that's kind of nice.
Just quickly on my end too, I think too it varies with video games and anime. Sometimes they want you to be close to the voice of the Japanese character. Other times they don't, and other times you can kind of use your creativity. I love it when I can at least see the character on a piece of paper, or something before I do it, so I can kind of get a picture of like, oh, what might he sound like, one character in particular was a show hasn't come out in the States yet, called Zoid's Genesis. I think Viz Media Europe has it, so far it hasn't come here. But there was a character I played named Seijuro, and the description they gave and the way he looked and everything, he's like this warrior who's sort of retired and he's peaceful, so he helps train. So just for whatever reason, I just felt like, oh wow, his demeanor would be kind of like David Carradine in an old TV show called Kung Fu. So I kind of, I didn't like imitate it, but I just used that demeanor to help me voice the character. So sometimes things like that help, where it'll just like pop in your head when you see the character. So that helps a lot.
Probably the hardest role I've ever done actually wasn't official voice over work. I had the wonderful opportunity to take a voiceover class from Christopher Robin Miller, who plays Professor Layton. So every once in a while we go into the sound booth and practice, and just have random scripts from things he's done or something like that. So he asked me to do one where I was supposed to play, it was like from Disney's Hercules, and I was supposed to play this like huge, beefy minotaur, and if anyone knows me really well, my voice does not go that low, so I was trying to like play this menacing character, and I was like, I'm gonna kill you, and it was terrible.